Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
This is Mr. Chris Claremont, a legend.
Melanie goes,
Tired.
what is happening, all you Minties? This is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And it is one of my favorite segments, that's right, Hidden Gems, but Spooktober style. That's right, we're going to be talking about some horror hidden gems. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, before going any further, I do want to remind people, if you're enjoying the content of this channel, please don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button. It goes a long way for us here on the channel. And big thank you to our patrons. Could not be making videos like this possible without you all. And the link to our Patreon is in the description of this video. Okay, so Hidden Gems is where I talk about 5 graphic novels, collected editions that not a lot of people talk about or aren't given enough of a spotlight, I think. But are some of my favorites, and they vary throughout the year, but usually around October is when I like to do things that are supernatural or horror, thriller type of stories. I've actually done my favorite horror comics, and I think I did another batch, and then for the last few years I've been doing horror hidden gems in October. Maddie actually did some last year and the year before. But let's go ahead and start in no particular order. These are books that you may have read, and by all means, if you read them, let me know what you think about them in the comments section, and also suggest some other horror reads. I may or may not have read them. Some of these came from you all just sparking an idea in my head, just like this segment. So let's go ahead and get started. We are kicking off this segment with Shock Shop by Cullen Bunn, Layla Lays, and Danny Luckert. This is published by Dark Horse Comics, and this is rated Teen Plus. And what's really interesting about this book is that it is a flip book. So half the story is here and half the story's on this side. But more on that here in a second. So I said it's an anthology, and with every anthology, I love the idea that they add a host. This time around, the hostess is the Mona Nemu Moreau, and she pretty much introduces you to both of the stories collected in this particular collection. There's the story of Familiars, where a divorced couple go and have a huge custody battle. Trevor ends up renting this house and is trying to rebuild his life. However, he discovers that the house is haunted by not just one spirit, but a bunch of spirits. Now, whether they're good or bad, well, I'll just go ahead and say that they're not the kindest. And then his kids start talking to them. And where exactly did these spirits come from, and what exactly do they want? And it is a really interesting take on the whole haunting story, how the character doesn't really react the way that most people would if they found out their house was haunted. And then on the flip side is the something in the woods in the dark, and that is a husband and wife are going camping with a bunch of other people, a bunch of new friends, and they end up in this deep dark section of the woods, and something in the woods is starting to kill the campers. So there's a lot of violence in this one. And what exactly could this creature or creatures be that are hunting down humans, and why? So that's kind of like your take on the Wendigo type of story or werewolf story. And again, you have the hostess there introducing both of the stories. I want to see more of these collected editions, but I think they've only done 4 issues and all of them are collected in here. Only in trade paperback edition. Count Crowley, this is another book published by Dark Horse Comics. This one is written by David Dasmakian and drawn by Lucas Kettner. And this one here is another one that is Teen Plus, and there's 2 volumes so far with a 3rd one on the way. I don't think it's out yet as of this video. So you may have heard the name David Dasmakian before. He's the actor that's been in Dark Knight, in Boogeyman, Oppenheimer, Ant-Man, Suicide Squad. He's been all over the place, so you've seen him in many movies. But this is his graphic novel. This started a couple of years ago, and this was sent to me by my buddy Matt. So big thank you to Matt. So all of this takes place in 1983, and the story is about a young reporter named Jerry Bartman, who has a bit of a drinking problem, and so much so that it ends up affecting her career, and she ends up taking a downward turn in her career. So she works at this local news station that was owned by her parents, but now her brother runs it. But because her brother runs it, he can't really fire her, so he's kind of giving her a second chance. So what he does is he forces her to take a position as a host. So it's kind of like a monster movie type of host. So think like Elvira, Vampira, Grandpa Munster when he used to host a bunch of those type of horror movie shows. And she discovers while she's hosting, she's pretty good at it, right? She doesn't care about these movies. She kind of makes fun of them. And she's all in this makeup and kind of what you saw on the cover. Or actually, as I'm flipping through the book here. But what she discovers is that there are some serious extra responsibilities that come with this job. So Jerry has to quickly learn not only how to hold this job, but also learn how to fight real monsters while she's trying to get sober. And then, of course, there's the whole mystery as to what happened to the original Count Crowley, because she took his spot, because nobody's seen or heard from him in a couple of weeks. Where is he? And then how are these real-life creatures that are around trying to get at her, whether trying to get her attention or whether they're trying to harm her, are they related to all of this? And I will be honest with you, at first I didn't like the protagonist. She's not very likable, but what really hooked me was the interesting cast of characters. It is really fast paced. Both volumes took me no time to read, and then the protagonist just has enough depth that you do want to see her get better. You do want to see her get sober and also get this job that she wants. So again, this is only available in trade paperbacks. There's 2 so far with a 3rd one on the way. And it was a really fun read. Nothing too grotesque, nothing too violent, but really good nonetheless. So big thank you to Matt. For Molly, this is by Gabe Chang and Benjamin Sawyer, published by GC Comics. This one here is a little different than the rest of the books I'm going to be talking about. It is all in one. It is a complete story. It is available in trade paperback, and this one is another one that is older teens. And why this one is different is because it's kind of less horror and more supernatural, and you'll see what I mean when I explain what the story is about. This is also one that is different because this was a Kickstarter book that my buddy Darkstar916 sent my way. And it was a complete surprise because I didn't know what to expect when I saw the title. You know, anytime you see a dog and then the title's called For Molly, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can deal with this. So I didn't know if it was going to be going into the sad category or the category of supernatural, but it ended up in the supernatural category. However, if you don't like to see animals get hurt, well, there's no sugarcoating it. It does happen in this book quite often. So the premise of this book is pretty unique. First of all, there are quotes in every issue. So there's 4 issues that make this up, and then there's a special extra in the back. But each one of these chapters has an introduction anywhere from Neil Gaiman's Sandman to Bruce Springsteen. That's right, the boss gets quoted in one of these chapters. So Greg is a divorced man, and he lives in New Jersey. You don't know exactly what happened in his marriage. All you know is that he feels really guilty for leaving his wife. And what ends up happening is he gets drawn into house sitting for one of his sisters, his sister Ava. And she also happens to be a veterinarian, which plays a big important part in this story. Now, unbeknownst to him and every other human in the book at the beginning, there's this huge war that's been going on for a long time between man and dogs. It's been going on for many years, and actually there are some rules to where they can fight, and it's all taking place in this forest area. Now this is where Molly comes in. So Molly's the titular dog, and she's looking for Ava. She's been sent out a distress call from Ava to find her. So both Greg and Molly get caught up in the middle of this war that's been going on for ages and are trying to find Greg's sister. Now, I also forgot to mention that the dogs can talk. Not like Greg can hear them like through some kind of telepathic powers. They can talk and humans can hear them, and they speak in English. And it's these group of dogs that are at war with these group of humans that nobody else knew about. But what I really liked about this book is that it tackles the themes of guilt and trust and abandonment. And the two main characters of Molly and Greg start out as just not wanting to be around each other and isolated, but find a kindred spirit in each other. And I mean, there's a beauty to that, right? Like, and that's why we have pets. That's why we love our animals and consider a lot. I know I do. Consider all of them family more than some real family members. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. While it's not your usual horror, it's more of a supernatural story. I really enjoyed where this book took me, and that's why I'm suggesting it here. And again, this is available through a Kickstarter, and I'll leave the link in the description where you can get it, and you can read the first chapter free on their website too. Cold Spots by Cullen Bunn and Mark Torres, published by Image Comics. Now, this one is mature content, and this one definitely goes back to the horror elements of this particular Hidden Gems. Now, horror always comes in different ways, right? Like, it can come in the fear of the unknown, or supernatural, or thrillers, or body horror. This one here is more of an atmospheric horror. So think something like Silent Hill, if you've played those games, or if you've seen the movies, or The Fog, or even The Mist in a way. So what the story is about, it's about this guy named Dan Kerr, who turned his back on his wife 10 years ago. So now we're in present time, where he's being hired by this gentleman named Mr. Warren, who's this rich guy, to go and find his missing daughter, Alyssa. And as it turns out, Mr. Warren's daughter, Alyssa, happens to be Dan's wife that he left 10 years ago. Now, what he didn't know about is that she had a child named Grace, and she is also missing. And he goes to the small town to go and investigate, like, what happened to her, if anybody's seen her, and he runs across some paranormal stuff. There's some creepy imagery through this particular book. Now, there's cults involved, there are witches involved, or it could be ghosts. Whatever it is, he has to figure out how to get his wife and kid back, even though he abandoned them 10 years ago. So it becomes really interesting, and it's all in one and done. There's nothing after this. It's just one short story, all collected in this particular trade paperback. The artwork in here by Mark Torres really reminds me of David Mack, mixed with like Bill Sienkiewicz, mixed with Ben Templesmith. Like, it's got this chaotic, dark, and dirty, like I mentioned, atmospheric type of look to it. So if you're into horror that it spooks you because you're looking at something terrifying, I think you'll enjoy this one. While the characters aren't really as in-depth as some of the other books I've mentioned, I think visually this one is creepy. It will get you, I promise. But that is Cold Spots. Creepshow by various creators, published by Image Comics and also Skybound. Here we go. This is the one. Saving the best for last. Mature content. If you grew up in the 80s and you watch Creepshow 1 and 2, and you always wanted those Creepshow comics to be real. But by the way, they did publish the Creepshow comics back. I remember when I was in middle school reading them. But, you know, I didn't know at the time when I watched the movies that they were based on EC comics like Tales from the Crypt or Haunts of Fear or Vault of Horror. I just thought it were movies and they made a comic about the movie. Ha! What a dumb bastard I was. Anyway, so what this is they're taking advantage of the Creepshow show that is going on Shudder right now. And they're making comic books, not based on the episodes, but their own kind of stories. You have different creators through here, and I'll name some here in a bit. But you're going to have different type of stories in this anthology that's all introduced by the Creeper in each of the stories. At the beginning of the story, he introduces you to some of the characters and, of course, the story. So you're going to see haunted houses, you're going to see ghosts, you're going to see a socialite that has to make the ultimate TikTok video or whatever the hell people are into, but she happens to be making it in this cursed temple. There's vampires in here. There are kids that are eating Halloween candy that they should not have been eaten, or they shouldn't have been gluttonous about, and they get their comeuppance. You see a costumed entertainer at a kid's birthday party that may not be in costume, but an actual creature that has a hunger for human flesh. You see people disappearing in small towns, and it might have something to do with this barber shop and his pet that he keeps around that constantly needs to be fed. And you see a comic book creator in here whose comics might come to life. It's everything that I love about anthologies, horror anthologies. So if you're fans of things like Tales from the Dark Side, or Tales from the Crypt, the TV show, or the Creepshow movies, or even the Shudder Creepshow show, this is definitely the book for you. You have the work in here of Chris Burnham, Kyle Starks, Steve Orlando, Stephen Langford, Erica Scholes, David Lapham, Francisco Francavilla, just to name a few of the creators in here. Now, the series I think is continuing, but this is the first trade paperback collecting the first few stories, and each of the issues has 3 or 4 stories in there. But don't sleep on this one. Completely worth it. A lot of fun. I hope once they get enough issues, they'll make a big oversized hardcover edition of this with a beautiful, like, weathered look to it. Anyway, I'm getting way ahead of myself. But available in trade paperback right now and published by Image Comics. Now, if you're interested in any of the books I've talked about on this video, check out our sponsors.
If you're in Europe and you're interested in buying these books, definitely check out Walt's Comic Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices, flat shipping rate of €12 for all EU countries, emails answered within 24 hours, waltscomicshop.com, and you can use the code nearmintcondition at checkout and get free shipping for all EU countries with your first order over €40. That's Walt's Comic Shop, your reliable source for omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. Ding!
cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget, the CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was my Hidden Gems Horror Style 2023, so October of 2023. Let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of these, what you suggest, what you've read recently that you're like, oh, this would be good to spotlight on your next segment, whether it's horror or not. I would love to know all those comments down below. Don't forget to smash that like button on the way out, everyone. Thank you for watching. Stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.